Have you ever met someone who just shines, someone who walks into a room and instantly draws every eye, not because they're trying, but because they can't help it? Here's a truth most people don't talk about. Some personalities are wired not just to survive, but to rise and lead, and leave a mark that lasts a lifetime. And Leo? Leo is one of them. But what if I told you that being a Leo is more than being confident or bold? What if behind that fire is a deep psychology? A hidden force that pushes them not just toward success, but toward something bigger? This isn't just another Zodiac breakdown. It's a journey into the heart of Leo. Into their fears, their fuel, their purpose. And why so many of them are destined to become millionaires, not just in money, but in meaning. If you're a Leo, or love someone who is, you'll want to stay with me until the end. Because today, we're diving deep into 18 powerful truths that will change the way you see Leo forever. And hey, if you feel even one moment that speaks to you, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button. This space is for you. Let's begin. Some people spend their entire lives looking for purpose. Chasing goals that feel hollow. Following paths that others told them were right. But a Leo, a true Leo, doesn't chase purpose. They carry it. Deep down, even before they understand it. They feel it. That they were born to create impact. To lead. To rise. Not because they think they're better, but because they can't ignore the fire that burns inside. It's not always easy. In fact, for many Leos, childhood feels like a contradiction. They're told to be humble, to not speak too loudly, to not draw attention. But inside, something aches. Something whispers. You're meant for more. And that whisper? It never goes away. As they grow older, that quiet voice becomes louder. It becomes vision. And once Leo sees the life they want, they don't just dream about it, they build it. Piece by piece. Sometimes without a clear map. Often with no safety net. But always with the same fuel, belief. Belief in something bigger. In themselves. In what could be. That kind of belief is rare. And it's powerful. Because in a world full of doubt, a Leo's certainty is magnetic. It draws people in. It makes things move. It opens doors that logic alone could never unlock. Have you ever met someone who walks into a room and you just know they're in charge? Not because they say it, but because everyone feels it? That's Leo energy. But it's not about control. Real Leo leadership isn't loud. It doesn't demand obedience. It inspires it. People follow Leo not out of fear, but out of trust. Because Leo doesn't lead with ego, they lead with vision. And that vision is so clear, so emotionally grounded, that others want to be part of it. They want to help build it. That's the magic. Leo doesn't just say follow me. They say, here's where we're going. Let's rise together. That kind of leadership isn't taught in textbooks. It's felt in moments. A Leo staying calm in chaos. Encouraging others when things fall apart. Making bold decisions when no one else will. That's not luck. That's emotional intelligence. That's heart. And that heart is also where Leo's creativity begins. Not from a need to be different. But from a deep urge to express. To translate emotion into form. To give life to ideas that others overlook. Whether it's starting a brand, writing a song, designing a product. Or simply creating joy in the way they live, Leo creates. Because they have to. It's not optional. Their soul craves it. And when creativity meets purpose, that's when Leo becomes unstoppable. Think about it. Some of the most iconic performers, entrepreneurs, designers, they didn't just follow trends. They set them. And many of them were Leos. Not because the stars handed them fame. But because they were brave enough to own their voice. To risk being misunderstood. To show the world their truth. And here's what's beautiful, Leo's creativity isn't rigid. It's fluid. It adapts. When the market shifts, Leo shifts with it. Not out of fear, but out of curiosity. They want to evolve. They love the challenge. Because every change is a new canvas. Every setback is raw material for a bigger comeback. But none of this, none of the bold moves, the leadership, the reinvention, would be possible without one core ingredient, energy. Not just physical energy. Emotional energy. Leo brings a kind of light that people feel even before they speak. A warmth. A belief. A spark. This energy, it attracts. It uplifts. It turns small conversations into opportunities. It turns strangers into allies. And that's not a coincidence. It's a skill. A way of being. The truth is, we all go through dark seasons. Times when we feel stuck. Afraid. Lost. But Leo? Even when they're in pain, they shine. They find the lesson. The reason. The way forward. And that resilience, that ability to hold on to light when everything feels heavy, is what makes their energy so magnetic. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to believe that something beautiful can come from the mess. And that belief spreads. It touches others. It opens hearts. It creates movement. So if you're a Leo, or if Leo lives in you somewhere, don't underestimate this gift. Don't dim that light. Don't wait for permission to lead, to create, to shine. Because the world doesn't just need more plans. It needs more fire. More heart. More people who live with purpose and dare to be seen. And if you're still watching, maybe you're one of them. There's something about a Leo's spirit that doesn't just aim for the top, it expects to get there. But the journey isn't smooth. And what really sets Leo apart is how they handle the messy parts. The doubts. The rejections. The moments when nothing seems to work. Here's the truth, Leo doesn't break easily. They bend, they stumble, but deep down, there's this stubborn refusal to quit. Some might call it pride. But if you look closer, it's not pride, it's passion. A kind of quiet fire that says, I've come too far to stop now. They don't fear hard work. They fear not living up to their own potential. And that inner pressure? It keeps them moving forward. Through criticism. Through failure. Through the silence when no one claps. Because for Leo, success isn't just about proving something to others. It's about proving something to themselves. That's why when life throws curveballs, Leo doesn't run. They recalibrate. They pause. They ask better questions. And then, they act. That's emotional maturity. And it's rare. Especially in moments of pressure, when most people panic or freeze. Think about a time when everything felt like it was falling apart. Maybe in your business, or your job, or your personal life. Did you collapse under the weight? Or did you find the strength to rise again? That strength, that resilience, that's the essence of Leo. And it's not born from comfort. It's born from experience. From learning how to breathe through the storm. From knowing that setbacks don't mean failure, they mean growth. And growth, for Leo, is never accidental. It's intentional. Because even when they fall forward. They take the lesson. They adjust. And then they show up better. Part of what makes that possible is their ability to communicate. And not just with words, but with energy, presence, and clarity. Leo doesn't just talk. They connect. When they believe in something, you feel it. When they share an idea, it sticks with you. Because their voice carries emotion. Their words carry purpose. And in the real world, in business, in relationships, in leadership, that kind of communication is everything. It's what gets investors to say yes. It's what builds trust with clients. It's what turns strangers into loyal customers. But here's what most people don't realize: Leo doesn't learn to communicate just to sell something. They do it because they genuinely care. They want to be understood. They want to be seen, not just on the surface, but at the core. And they want to help others feel seen too. That's what gives their voice power. It's not just style, it's sincerity. You believe them because they believe themselves. That kind of self-trust is magnetic. And it makes Leo one of the most effective persuaders, leaders, and creators you'll ever meet. Now add one more layer. Leo doesn't just have the voice. They have the image. And this isn't about vanity or superficiality. It's about energy, presence, intention. They know how to present themselves, not to impress, but to express. The way they dress, speak, carry themselves, it all tells a story. A story of strength, of clarity, of purpose. And people pick up on that. Investors, collaborators, even total strangers, they feel it. They see someone who's aligned. Someone who knows what they want and isn't afraid to stand in that truth. In a noisy world, that kind of clarity cuts through. It builds confidence. It opens doors. Because when you look like someone who belongs at the table, people invite you in. Leo's image is not a mask. It's a mirror. A reflection of the power they've claimed within. And claiming that power, that's what changes lives. But even with the voice, the passion, the presence, none of it would last if Leo didn't have focus. And they do. When they set their mind on something, it becomes more than a goal, it becomes a mission. A soul contract. They don't chase 10 things at once. They choose the one that matters. And they give it everything. Day by day. Step by step. Not because it's easy, but because they can't not. Because the vision lives inside them like a heartbeat. And that's the secret. Most people get distracted. They lose momentum. They forget why they started. But Leo? Leo remembers. Leo keeps going. Even when no one's watching. Even when no one believes. Because they believe. And that belief shapes their path more than any external validation ever could. So if you're building something right now, a business, a career, a new version of yourself, remember this: success doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right thing consistently. It comes from alignment. From intention. From focus. That's how you create something real. Something lasting. Something worth showing the world. And Leo is here to show the world what's possible. But what if I told you, the deepest truths are still to come? Because the final 3 insights, they go beyond action. Beyond success. They touch something more controversial, more spiritual, and far more personal. Stay with me. You're about to see Leo in a whole new light. There's something powerful about a Leo's loyalty. It's not loud. It's not always spoken. But you feel it. When a Leo commits to someone, to a mission, to a vision, they stay. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. That kind of loyalty in today's world? It's rare. And when applied to business or partnerships, it becomes a force that builds empires. People want to work with someone they can trust. Someone who shows up consistently. Someone who remembers what they said, even when no one's watching. Leo's loyalty creates that safety. It builds bridges that last. In leadership, this quality becomes gold. Because when you treat people like family, they give you their best. Not out of obligation, but out of respect. Out of love. This deep sense of connection comes from Leo's heart-centered nature. They don't just want results, they want realness. They care about relationships. They want to win, yes, but not alone. Not at the cost of others. And that's why their loyalty isn't just emotional, it's strategic. It creates networks of support. Teams that stick around. Clients that stay for years. Of course, loyalty isn't without challenges. Sometimes it means Leo holds on too long. To people. To dreams. To paths that no longer serve them. But even then, the lesson is valuable. It teaches discernment. It teaches boundaries. It reminds Leo that staying loyal to themselves must always come first. That truth becomes even more important when we talk about attention. Because let's be honest, Leo likes the spotlight. They enjoy being seen, recognized, celebrated. And some might judge that. They might call it ego, or vanity. But if we really look deeper, we'll see something else. Leo doesn't crave attention just to feel important. They crave it because it validates their effort. It reflects their impact. It tells them, yes, your presence matters. For someone who pours so much of their energy into creating, leading, giving, it's not just about praise. It's about being felt. Have you ever worked on something deeply meaningful, and no one noticed? Have you ever lit up a room, only to be ignored? That pain, the silence, is something Leo understands well. That's why they seek the light. Not to steal it, but to reflect it. To remind the world what's possible when someone shows up fully. So, instead of suppressing that desire, Leo embraces it. They channel it into performance, into influence, into ambition. They use the spotlight to inspire others. And when done from a grounded place, it becomes a gift. Not just for them, but for everyone watching. And here's where Leo's clarity becomes key. Because attention without direction can be dangerous. But Leo is different. They have an innate ability to set goals. To define what they want with stunning precision. While others get lost in distractions or quick wins, Leo focuses on the bigger picture. That's why their success isn't random. It's planned. Measured. Intentional. They don't just wish for success, they reverse engineer it. They break it down into steps. They work backwards from the vision. And every choice they make, every move they commit to, is rooted in that clarity. This focus protects them. It keeps them grounded. When shiny things come their way, they pause. They ask, does this serve my purpose? And if it doesn't, they walk away. That kind of discipline is powerful. It protects their time, their energy, their peace. It also allows them to build momentum. Because the more aligned their actions are, the faster the results come. Not because of magic, but because of alignment. And when Leo is aligned, there's nothing more unstoppable. Still, life isn't always linear. Plans change. Failures happen. People disappoint. And in those moments, what carries Leo through isn't just drive, it's emotional control. Let's take a moment here. Because this is a trait many overlook. Leo feels deeply. They're ruled by the heart. So when things go wrong, the emotional waves can hit hard. But over time, they learn how to hold their center. They learn how to breathe through the chaos. How to pause before reacting. How to lead even when their world is shaking. That's emotional mastery. And it doesn't show up in perfect moments. It shows up when they lose money, face betrayal, hit walls. And instead of exploding, they choose presence. They choose calm. Not because they don't feel the pain, but because they've learned that clarity doesn't come from panic. It comes from pause. In business, this matters more than people think. Emotions cloud judgment. They rush decisions. They burn bridges. But Leo, when grounded, becomes the opposite. They become the eye of the storm. Calm. Clear. Focused. And this is why people trust them. Follow them. Invest in them. So if you're navigating something difficult right now, breathe. Feel what you need to feel. But don't let it lead you. Let it teach you. Let it deepen you. That's what Leo does. They take the emotion and turn it into wisdom. And when you combine loyalty, presence, focus, and emotional control, you get someone who not only survives chaos, but grows from it. Someone who doesn't just build wealth, but builds worth. But here's the thing. Everything we've explored so far, purpose, leadership, creativity, resilience, it's only the beginning. Because in the final 3 truths, we enter the most misunderstood, most spiritual, and most radically honest side of Leo. The part that reveals not just why they rise, but how they transform pain into power. You're going to want to hear this. What's coming next might just change the way you see Leo, and maybe even yourself, forever. When you look at a Leo from the outside, you might see confidence, boldness, strength. But what most people don't see is the inner dialogue. The constant pressure to live up to their own expectations. The silent weight of knowing they were born to do something big. That kind of inner fire, it can be empowering. But it can also be exhausting. That's why optimism isn't just a personality trait for Leo. It's a lifeline. A mindset they choose. Again and again. Especially when things don't go as planned. Especially when the world doubts them. Optimism becomes their inner fuel. Not the naive kind that pretends everything's fine, but the mature kind. The kind that says, even this moment has meaning. Even this failure has a lesson. You see it when they lose a job, but somehow find a better path weeks later. You see it when a relationship ends. And they still choose to show up with love. That's not luck. That's emotional training. It's the quiet decision to stay open when it would be easier to shut down. To believe in possibility when reality feels heavy. This belief doesn't just help them survive, it helps them attract. Because energy is contagious. And Leo's energy, when they're in alignment, is radiant. It draws people in. It gives people hope. It reminds them what it looks like to keep showing up with heart. And that's the key word here, heart. Leo is ruled by it. Moved by it. Anchored in it. And that's what makes their journey so personal. They don't just want to succeed. They want to feel proud of how they succeed. They want their values to match their actions. Their outside life to reflect their inside truth. Which is why justice matters so much to them. Not just legal justice. Emotional justice. Ethical justice. The kind that asks, is this fair? Is this right? Does this honor the people involved? Leo can't separate success from integrity. It's not in their nature. They may be bold, but they are not ruthless. They might compete, but never at the cost of their soul. This deep sense of fairness shows up in how they lead. They listen. They include. They reward effort. And even when they make mistakes, and they do, they own it. They apologize. They adjust. Because their pride doesn't block growth. It fuels it. And when Leo feels something is unfair, you'll see it in their eyes. You'll feel it in their voice. They'll stand up. Speak out. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it costs them something. That's not drama. That's courage. That's the heart of a true leader. But here's where it gets even more interesting. For a sign that loves stability, Leo is incredibly adaptable. And that surprises people. Because they assume Leo needs control. But in reality, Leo thrives in change. As long as the purpose stays clear, they're willing to shift everything else. They don't get stuck in old systems. They don't cling to outdated strategies. If something no longer works, they evolve. You'll see this in their careers. When one industry slows down, they're already looking at what's next. When the market shifts, they don't panic, they pivot. It's not always smooth. But it's powerful. Because adaptability, for Leo, is tied to freedom. The freedom to choose again. To start fresh. To reinvent. This reinvention isn't about ego. It's about survival. It's about growth. It's about staying true to their calling, even if the path looks different than expected. And in a world that changes faster than ever, this is a superpower. It allows Leo to stay ahead of the curve. To ride waves instead of being crushed by them. To take what could have been a setback and turn it into a breakthrough. That's the beauty of the Leo mindset. They don't fear change, they partner with it. And through all of this, the light, the shadow, the reinvention, there's something else unfolding. Something quiet but life-changing. It's the realization that their presence, their truth, their journey has value. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And that realization? That's where transformation begins. But it doesn't end here. Because the last 3 truths, they go deeper than goals. They question what it really means to succeed. They ask, who am I without the spotlight? What do I truly need to feel fulfilled? These next moments, they might shake something loose inside you. They might challenge how you see yourself. Or how you've been chasing your own version of success. So stay with me. Because what comes next might just be the part your soul has been waiting to hear. There's one thing about Leo that often gets misunderstood. Their drive. Their ambition. Their hunger to win. Some people see it as arrogance. But the truth? It comes from a deeper place. A place of meaning. Leo doesn't just want success for the numbers. They want it because it proves something. To themselves. To the world. That they are worthy. That they matter. That their life stands for something. This is where vision meets determination. Leo doesn't casually hope things will happen. They decide. They set their sights on something big, and then they go after it with every piece of their soul. No shortcuts. No skipping steps. Just consistent, focused effort. And when the rest of the world gets tired, distracted, or discouraged, Leo stays locked in. Because they remember why they started. It's that steady fire inside. The quiet voice that says, "You're not done yet." The same voice that got them up after a loss. That helped them rebuild after failure. That kept them believing when no one else did. This isn't motivation. It's purpose. And it's what makes Leo not just a doer, but a finisher. Even when they're unsure. Even when the path is unclear. They keep going. Because deep down, they know something beautiful is on the other side of persistence. And that kind of consistency, it changes lives. It builds legacies. It turns dreams into structures you can touch. But none of this would be possible without one final piece. Something that most people never see. Emotional control. Yes, Leo is passionate. They feel everything fully. The highs are high, and the lows, well, they can be brutal. But over time, something powerful happens. They learn how to hold their emotions. Not suppress them. Not fake a smile. But hold them. With care. With wisdom. They learn how to stay calm when the deal falls through. When the friend betrays them. When the audience doesn't clap. They learn how to pause before reacting. How to breathe through tension. How to speak from clarity, not chaos. This kind of strength doesn't show up on the outside. It lives in those quiet moments, when they choose peace over drama, purpose over ego, patience over impulse. That's real mastery. That's what makes Leo not just a powerful force, but a wise one. And in today's world, where emotions run wild and everyone's quick to react, this is rare. It's what gives Leo an edge in business, in relationships, in life. Because when others lose control, Leo leads. Not from a place of dominance, but from presence. From trust. from grounded power. If you've ever seen a Leo walk away from conflict gracefully, if you've ever seen them choose silence when provoked, or kindness when they're hurt, then you've seen their evolution. That's not weakness. That's emotional strength. The kind that earns respect without demanding it. And it's often this very calm, steady energy that draws the biggest opportunities their way. Because people trust them. People feel safe around them. People want to build with them. And maybe that's the greatest wealth of all, not just what Leo earns, but who they become. So, as we wrap up this journey, let me say this. Leo isn't just here to chase success. They're here to embody it. Not the kind that only shows up in numbers or trophies, but the kind that shows up in how they live. How they treat people. How they lead with heart. How they turn pain into wisdom. And how they never stop believing in what's possible. If you're a Leo, or if you felt even a small part of yourself reflected in this video, then I hope you see your fire more clearly now. Your loyalty. Your focus. Your voice. Your grace under pressure. They're not just traits. They're tools. And they were never random. You were born with them for a reason. So keep shining. Keep showing up. Keep trusting that your path, no matter how unpredictable, is taking you exactly where you need to be. And hey, if something in this video felt like home, if it made you breathe a little deeper, if it reminded you of who you are, or who you want to become, then maybe take a second to subscribe. Or share this with someone who needs to hear it too. Because this space? It's for growth. For honesty. For people like you. And trust me, we're just getting started. In the next videos, we'll dive even deeper into the psychology behind each sign. The fears we hide. The patterns we repeat. And the power we can reclaim. So stay close. There's more truth to uncover. And more light to return to. Always.